Jonathan Frakes once played the famous role of Commander Riker in Star Trek, The Next Generation, but his career took an unexpected turn. After his 2004 movie Thunderbirds failed at the box office, Hollywood seemed to turn its back on him. Studios stopped offering him work. To make ends meet, he had to sell many of his personal things, and his wife even opened a store to help support the family. Frakes called this time in his life movie jail, as he basically disappeared from the big screen for almost 20 years. But what happened next tells an inspiring story of a comeback that Hollywood almost buried. Jonathan was born on August 19, 1952, in a small hospital in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. Although his family lived in State College, all the babies were born in Bellefonte because that's where the liquor stores were, something Jonathan used to joke about. His father, James, was an English professor, and his mother, Doris, was a teacher. When Jonathan was 5, the family moved to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, after his father got a job at Lehigh University. Jonathan grew up there with his younger brother Daniel, who sadly died from pancreatic cancer in 1997. When Jonathan was in 4th grade, he was handed a trombone, not by choice, but because his long arms could reach the slide. That random decision sparked a lifelong love of music. His father introduced him to jazz, and Jonathan quickly became a fan. In high school, he joined the Grenadier Band at Liberty High School, a group so good they won big awards at the Festival of States in Florida. The mayor even renamed a street in their honor. Jonathan once said the band was more popular than the football team, and people came to games just to see them play. He started college at Penn State as a psychology major, but changed his mind after working as an usher at a theater one summer. A director asked him to join a play, and after seeing how much fun the actors were having, Jonathan switched to theater arts. He got deeply involved, joining the Thespians and performing in many shows, barely sleeping but loving every moment. After graduating in 1974, he went to Harvard for more training at the Loeb Drama Center, where he worked with professional actors and gained valuable experience. After finishing his studies, Jonathan moved to New York City to start his acting career. Like many others, he struggled. He waited tables and moved furniture to make money, even hurting his back on one job. He performed in small plays, including Eugene O'Neill's The Hairy Ape, and eventually made it to Broadway in the musical Shenandoah in 1976. One of his oddest jobs was dressing up as Captain America for Marvel Comics, doing appearances at fan events. It wasn't glamorous, but it helped him learn how to deal with fans, something that would later come in handy. In 1977, Jonathan got a steady role on the soap opera The Doctors as Tom Carroll, a Vietnam veteran. When that role ended, his agent suggested he move to Los Angeles. So, in 1978, he did. Life in LA brought new opportunities. He guest-starred on shows like Charlie's Angels, Fantasy Island, The Waltons, Quincy, M.E., and The Dukes of Hazzard. These small roles helped build his reputation, even if he wasn't a star yet. In 1979, he appeared in a TV movie called Beach Patrol, meant to become a series. It didn't take off. He had similar luck with another show in 1983, Bare Essence, which was quickly cancelled despite being a primetime soap on NBC. But that show led to something important. He met Jeannie Francis. At first, they didn't get along, but 2 years later, while filming the Civil War miniseries North and South, they reconnected. This time, sparks flew, and they started dating. North and South became a hit, and Jonathan's role as Stanley Hazard got him noticed. Then in 1987, encouraged by Jeannie and her family, he auditioned for a new sci-fi show. It took 6 weeks and 7 auditions, but he finally landed the part of Commander William Riker on Star Trek, The Next Generation. That was the turning point in his career. He and Jeannie had to delay their wedding twice because of his filming schedule, but they finally married on May 28, 1988. When Jonathan auditioned for Riker, he wasn't the studio's first choice. Other actors were being considered, but Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry personally pushed for him. Roddenberry saw something in Frakes, maybe even something of himself. Thanks to his support, Frakes got the role, and the rest is history. On the show, Jonathan accidentally created something fans now call the Riker maneuver, a bold way of sitting down by swinging his leg over the back of a chair. It wasn't planned. The chairs on set were low and hard to sit in, so he found his own way to deal with it. It became one of those small but memorable quirks that fans loved and still talk about today. The way Jonathan Frakes swung his leg over a chair as Commander Riker became such a memorable move that fans started calling it the Riker maneuver. It even got referenced in Star Trek: Lower Decks when Jack Quaid's character shouted "Riker" as he jumped onto a saddle. But there's actually another Riker maneuver, one from the movie Star Trek: Insurrection, which was more about battle strategy than chairs. Frakes' performance truly stood out in the two-part episode The Best of Both Worlds. Until then, Riker had been seen as the calm and steady second-in-command. But in this story, he was pushed to his limits by a new character, Commander Shelby, played by Elizabeth Dennehy. Their scenes were filled with tension. Riker often rolled his eyes while Shelby challenged him with confidence. Fans noticed the chemistry right away. Even years later, when the episode was screened in theaters, people still reacted strongly. One viewer famously shouted, "Read it, girl," during a scene where Shelby confronted Riker in an elevator. That moment didn't just bring laughs. It sparked imaginations. People started thinking about what the show would have been like if Riker had become captain and Shelby was his number one. It wasn't just a cool idea for a storyline. It showed Riker's internal conflict and made him more relatable. He was a man trying to decide if he was really ready to take the captain's chair. Behind the scenes, things were far from serious all the time. Frakes once revealed that Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, told him not to smile. Frakes thought that was ridiculous. He joked later, "They cast me, and then told me not to smile." In reality, the cast was anything but cold. They were loud, fun, and always laughing. Frakes, Patrick Stewart, and Brent Spiner had a great bond and wanted to bring that energy to the screen. They admired the chemistry between the original Star Trek trio, Kirk, Spock, and Bones, and tried to recreate that fun. It wasn't just acting. The teasing, the eye rolls, the jokes, it all came from their real friendships. You could feel that connection in every episode. Eventually, Frakes wanted to direct. But when he first asked to direct an episode of The Next Generation, he could tell the producers didn't take him seriously. Executive producer Rick Berman didn't say no outright, but Frakes could see the doubt in his face. So instead of begging, he decided to prove himself. He quietly started preparing. He spent hundreds of hours in editing rooms, joined casting sessions, and went to every pre-production meeting he could. After months of preparation, he brought a 47-page presentation to the producers. It included hand-drawn storyboards, detailed camera plans, and scene breakdowns. The crew nicknamed it the Riker Directive. That document showed Berman that Frakes wasn't just asking for a chance. He had earned it. The first episode he directed was The Offspring, an emotional story about Data creating an android daughter. Frakes had to juggle both acting and directing, which meant running between scenes in a Starfleet uniform under his director's jacket. He worked 18-hour days and barely slept. But all that effort paid off. The episode aired in March 1990 and received high praise. Even though he wasn't happy with his own acting in the episode, he asked editors to cut his scenes down. Frakes said he realized he liked directing more than acting. Not everyone on set trusted him right away. Some cast members were unsure how to react to one of their own giving them directions. Patrick Stewart was respectful in public, but didn't initially believe an actor could successfully direct others. Marina Sirtis, who had a romantic storyline with Frakes in the episode, was nervous and didn't even look him in the eye that first morning. Brent Spiner came with extra notes, worried about how his character would be handled. But Frakes stayed focused. He didn't try to boss anyone around. He just worked hard. By the second day, Stewart changed his mind. Sirtis was laughing with him again, and Spiner relaxed. They all realized Frakes had done something different. He had truly prepared himself. What many didn't know was that Frakes had been stealth directing, even before he officially got the job. Whenever he had scenes as Riker, he arrived 90 minutes early to plan every camera angle with the cinematographer. He came with full shot lists ready. During lunch breaks, while others were resting, He locked himself in the editing bay to review footage. Nobody asked him to do that. He just did it. That's how he kept things running smoothly without making it seem like he was showing off. When it came to camera work, Frakes had one more secret weapon, though that part of the story is still to come. This continuation of Jonathan Frakes' journey paints a powerful portrait of perseverance, passion, and personal transformation, both on and off the screen. After long days on the Star Trek set, Frakes would often end his nights at a small bar called the Warp Core with Marvin Rush, the show's director of photography. Over glasses of Macallan 18, Rush would sketch lessons on cinematography, light placement, composition, shot angles, on bar napkins. Those impromptu masterclasses became invaluable. Frakes kept dozens of those napkins. 13 of them still hang framed in his office today. So when Paramount needed a director for Star Trek, First Contact, Frakes, though not their first choice, was ready. Big-name filmmakers like Ridley Scott and John McTiernan had already passed, but Frakes understood the world of Star Trek in a way no outsider could. He had 10 weeks to prep, 12 to shoot. Luxury compared to the tight timelines of television. He immersed himself in the visual language of film, studying classics like Jaws, Close Encounters, 2001, A Space Odyssey, and the works of James Cameron and Ridley Scott. One of the biggest creative shifts came with the invention of the Borg Queen. Initially, the Borg were meant to remain a faceless hive mind, but Paramount executives pushed for a tangible villain, someone the audience and characters could interact with. The Borg Queen was born, and casting her proved challenging. She had to be magnetic and menacing, eerie yet seductive. Alice Krige was the perfect choice. Her portrayal, with pale skin, mechanical wires for hair, and a chilling aura, defined the film's tone. Her entrance, where her torso is lowered and attached to her body, became iconic. ILM took 5 months to complete that one shot. Everything about First Contact was scaled up. Borg makeup that once took an hour now needed 5. Costumes required 30 minutes to put on, 90 to remove. The Borg became more grotesque, dripping with black goo and tangled in wires. For the Borg Queen's arrival, they used practical rigs and digital effects to make her appear as if she was floating. It was a bold, unforgettable moment, and it worked. First Contact was a hit. Fans and critics praised it. Patrick Stewart even called it the best-looking Star Trek film ever. Riding high, Frakes went on to direct Star Trek, Insurrection. But lightning didn't strike twice. The film received mixed reviews, often criticized for a weak plot. Stewart later admitted even Nemesis, which Frakes didn't direct, improved in some ways. This hurt Frakes' momentum. Then came Thunderbirds in 2004, a big-budget film based on the classic series. With stars like Bill Paxton and Ben Kingsley, it had all the makings of a hit. But it bombed. Critics panned it, and audiences stayed away. Frakes called what followed movie jail. Hollywood stopped returning his calls. He had to sell things. He left London and moved to Maine. His wife, Jeannie Francis, opened a store to help support the family. It was a reset. He hasn't directed another feature film since. But Frakes didn't quit. He returned to what he knew, television and Star Trek. He directed episodes for Discovery, Picard, and other shows like The Librarians. In his words, TV became a place where you can take a swing and nobody notices who directed it. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. Frakes also found deep, lasting love on a film set, North and South in 1985. That's where he met Jeannie Francis, already a star from General Hospital. They'd crossed paths before, on the short-lived show Bare Essence, but the timing hadn't been right. On location in Charleston and Natchez, sparks flew. A trip to New Orleans sealed the deal. They married in 1988, now over 38 years ago. In Hollywood terms, that's a lifetime. Jeannie never joined Star Trek, but she didn't need to. With over 890 episodes as Laura Collins on General Hospital, she was already a pop culture icon. Frakes often helps her run lines for those grueling soap opera days. They raised 2 kids together, and their daughter Eliza is now following in their creative footsteps as a writer and actor. Behind all of this, Frakes carries the grief of losing his brother Daniel to pancreatic cancer in 1997, just a week before his daughter was born. Daniel wasn't just family. He was Frakes' best friend. They moved to New York together in a beat-up '67 Chevy sport van, chasing dreams. When Daniel was diagnosed, doctors attempted the Whipple procedure, but it was too late. He was given 6 months to live. The survival rate for pancreatic cancer at the time was only 4%. Frakes channeled his pain into purpose. For over 25 years, he's worked with the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, PONSON. In 2022, he helped launch Trek Against Pancreatic Cancer alongside fellow Star Trek actors Armin Shimerman, Kitty Swink, an 18-year survivor, and John Billingsley. Every April 29th, they join thousands across the country for the Purple Stride fundraiser. Frakes usually walks from the Santa Monica Pier. Together, their team has raised tens of thousands of dollars. Thanks in part to efforts like these, the survival rate has climbed from 4% to around 11 to 12%. Still devastating, but better. PONSON has invested $174 million in research to date, including a record $25 million in 2022 alone. Jonathan Frakes has never stopped speaking out about the need for early detection, especially if the disease runs in your family. For him, Star Trek was never just about space or the future. It was always about humanity, how we face challenges, how we grow, and how we support each other. On screen and off, that's what he's always tried to do. He knows how fast it can take someone. That's why Jonathan Frakes keeps walking, keeps speaking, keeps showing up. After Thunderbirds flopped in 2004, Frakes vanished from the big screen. The film lost about $57 million. Critics crushed it. Audiences ignored it. Hollywood turned its back. The man who had once helmed the most celebrated Star Trek film of the decade became the cautionary tale, the guy who directed one of the biggest bombs of the 2000s. His name quietly disappeared from studio shortlists. By 2006, Frakes had no choice but to pivot. He went back to television. Not prestige cable dramas or high-concept hits. He started over with shows like Zoe 101 and True Jackson, VP. Nickelodeon kids shows. Some might have hidden behind a pseudonym, but not Frakes. He used his real name. He owned it. Every project, no matter how small, was a step forward. Slowly, piece by piece, he began rebuilding. In 2010, a shift happened. He got the call to direct episodes of NCIS, Los Angeles and Castle, both big network procedurals with wide reach. Suddenly, Frakes was back in the conversation. No longer just the guy who bombed, he was the guy who stuck around. That's when a new title started to follow him, the sci-fi fixer. He had quietly worked on 17 different science fiction and fantasy shows, many of them struggling to find their footing. Roswell, The Librarians, Warehouse 13, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Orphan Black. When budgets were tight and scripts weren't working, they called Frakes. He brought clarity. He brought energy. He made things move. By 2016, he had directed over 100 episodes of television. That's when the whispers started. They started calling him the genre whisperer. He didn't shout. He didn't showboat. He got results. Frakes knew how to thread action, heart, and humor into shows that often had none of the above. He wasn't saving the world. He was making sure the story made it to air, on time, and better than it started. Then in 2018, it looked like the comeback was about to catch fire. CBS greenlit a reboot of Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction. Frakes wasn't just returning to host. He was going to direct every episode. The show had a loyal cult following. Fans were thrilled. The crew was ready. Everything was in place. And then, just 3 days before production, CBS pulled the plug. Creative differences. The phrase that ends more careers than failure ever could. It was déjà vu. The original version of Beyond Belief had been a headache too. Fox constantly shifted its time slot. The show went on a 2-year hiatus before finally getting cancelled. Now the reboot was dead before it even began. But Frakes didn't flinch. In 2021, he brought the show back. In Germany. Renamed X Factor, Das Unfassbare. The show was filmed in Los Angeles but aired overseas. Frakes returned as host, his calm voice once again inviting viewers to decide. Fact or fiction? Different network. Different country. Same strange stories. Same resilience. Jonathan Frakes has never been the loudest guy in the room. He's never been the industry darling. But he's still here, showing up, camera ready, walking the long road most people quit halfway through.